guys. So we've been preparing for this event for a couple of months now. Now the market is well priced in at this moment that they're going to announce some form of tapering. Now the disappointment comes in the details here. You have to be very careful about being too biased one way or the other right now. Very easy for the market to end at 121. Very easy for the market to end at 117. And really it comes down to not just what he says, but how the market responds to it. Okay, now this is, we're going to be watching him live. We're going to have him speaking and the Euro chart next to it. And we're going to try and catch the key phrases that are definitely necessary to respond to what's going on in this market. Okay, so while Draghi is expected to it's very hard for him to talk down the euro in the current market. It is not that hard for him to disappoint in terms of timeline and the size. And if he doesn't commit at all to tapering and in December leaves it open, there could easily be a more aggressive action. And the problem with the euro situation here is that the positioning is so strong that the assumed buyers on the dip may be one level or two levels too early. Right, that's the danger here. We've got US dollar right now at the key support, the very key support, 2016 lows. You have US backdrop here where tax reform is getting onto the agenda and the debt ceiling has been pushed back to December as well. So the market is well poised for US dollar rally if we get the right ingredients here that Draghi under-delivers and we can lift off a little bit, get a little bit of support. It's actually surprising to me that the euro is so strong into this announcement, and I'm not happy about it from a buying perspective, because that's a little bit of a trick almost, unless the market's so bullish here and I've misread how dangerous it is to the downside. Because I'm a bull on the euro, right? I've been a bull for a very long time. If you've been watching this stream, you know I'm bullish on the euro. I'm worried here. I'm worried here about the positioning. I'm worried here about what can be said to the delayed taper, and I'm worried about the market's reaction to that. So I'm not really super keen to buy the first dip if it comes out half bearish. Right? I want to sit there and watch that price action before I commit again to the long euro story, because I'm worried not so much about the euro here, it's about the US dollar. The US dollar is very stretched, and a snapback could be on the cards, especially if North Korea fades and it becomes more of a US Trump focus on tax reform. Okay. Now, there's multiple views about what could happen. It's in 7 minutes that it begins. What will happen is a statement's released and his speech. Market reacts pretty aggressively, and then we move on to him reading the speech and then the Q&A, where there's also more volatility coming. Because if he's worried about the euro, he's probably got a couple of little sentences there ready to talk down the euro if it's at 120, 120.50. So the game doesn't end, right, with the taper comments in the statement, right, in the euro at 120.50. The game just begins there, because Q&A could easily involve some sort of line there that gets the market to be reversing from high levels. You saw that pullback from 120.70 all the way down to 118.30, and that could happen in even a bigger level, a bigger style. Okay, so let's be a little careful. That was US dollar mostly, right? That was US dollar, not euro. But euro positioning also helped that. So this sort of reversal can definitely happen from 121, even higher, if Draghi says the right thing. So let's be very nimble and open to being flexible, not too dogmatic here, because it's not at 115 anymore. This market is quite near those targets, and the breakthrough of 120 to the move to 125 does require a pretty substantial outline here of taper, I suspect. Otherwise, you're dealing with a market which would be pretty fluid and potentially reversing. The downside is interesting in the fact that we're going to be looking to buy. Obviously, it's the burden of proof is on the bears in terms of price action. After Draghi tries to talk it down, it's going to be up to them to break key levels and key supports. The level I'm looking at is around 118.50. If it can get past that, then I'll be very cautious in how I enter. If it sort of bounces off that, has a little bit of nice price action, buying up near that level with the stop below is probably the way I'll be playing it today. Let's have a look quickly while we can here before Draghi starts to speak. This is a trading plan that TD Securities put out from London regarding the opening statement. So opening statement is probably the most important thing here. There's nothing really in the policy decision there to get the markets excited. Alright, so what we want here, if you're looking for the top side, you want less emphasis on euro, you want less emphasis on inflation being lower, you want upbeat sort of expectations inflation is going to get there. The base case is GDP's little change. Draghi talks about the euro impact and the underlying inflation. Look, I haven't read this, and they're 1850 is their test key pivot. It's a pretty natural level to produce. I was on that just earlier. I drew it on this chart just when I got back because that's the level I'm looking at too. Let's go on 1850 though. And yeah, any talk about warranted strength or just really harsh focus on the euro and no sort of taper explanation at all could easily lead to that bigger pullback. Right now, if you're looking at where the danger is, you're looking at the breakdown here between the 2-year spread. So the yields have got ahead of themselves, and so the yields started to drop back, and euro hasn't. Right, so that's the danger. This is decoupled and it's not normal. Alright, so be very careful here how you play it, because this could really backfire on you and the euro dollar strength. Bond market's pretty big, pretty important. Down please, Q&A. Yeah, if he talks about QE and say it's happening, blah blah blah, market's just gonna go nuts. Continues, you might have a couple of statements where he continues to talk about the euro. I think that's going to be the case. It's actually pretty hard for him to come out more bearish than the market wants him to, right? Because the market knows Draghi's probably going to have a couple of words to say about the euro. It's really if he, I think how he does it is if, yeah, the market has to come away from this. If you want to see heavy euro selling, market has to come away from this, that December is no longer set in stone. Alright, that's the key sort of terminology you want to see playing out if you're a euro bear. If you're euro bullish, I think any sort of acknowledgement tapers coming in the next couple of meetings is going to be very hard for the euro not to be well supported on any dips regarding euro strength, and potentially just straight up. Right, and if you can't talk it down and it closes above 120, we have to go back to buying the euro, because the dollar index will be below here. Then the focus will shift over to dollar yen. There's a chance here on Saturday that North Korea fires another missile, and that's where the real carnage begins for the US dollar. All right, let's get everything set up here, guys. Skittish. Alright, let's have a look at the statement. looking for statements about the taper. Looks like the huge jump in jobless claims. That's you can take that away as being from the hurricane, of course. So don't read that too much. Still haven't got the contents of this statement. Here the big man is. So the positioning is really stretched, but the momentum is pretty strong. The idea behind it is solid, the long. The danger is if you can aggressively talk it down or not mention any sort of QE. Or delay the QE past December. That's the benchmark.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President and I are very pleased to welcome you to our press conference. We'll now report on the outcome of today's meeting of the Governing Council. Based on our regular economic and monetary analysis, we decided to keep the key ECB interest rates unchanged. We expect them to remain at their present levels for an extended period of time, and well past the horizon of our net asset purchases. Regarding non-standard monetary policy measures, we confirm that our net asset purchases at the current monthly pace of 60 billion euro are intended to run until the end of December 2017 or beyond if necessary, and in any case until the Governing Council sees a sustained adjustment in the path of inflation consistent with its inflation aim. The net purchases are made alongside reinvestments of the principal payments from maturing securities purchased under the asset purchase program. The incoming information, including our projections, confirms a broadly unchanged medium-term outlook for euro area economic growth and inflation. The economic expansion, which accelerated more than expected in the first half of 2017, continues to be solid and broad-based across countries and sectors. At the same time, the recent volatility in the exchange rate represents a source of uncertainty which requires monitoring with regard to its possible implications for the medium-term outlook for price stability.
Very non-committal on the QE so far.
While the ongoing economic expansion provides confidence that inflation will gradually head to levels in line with our inflation aim, it has yet to translate sufficiently in stronger inflation dynamics. Measures of underlying inflation have ticked up slightly in recent months, but overall remain at subdued levels. Therefore, a very substantial degree of monetary accommodation is still needed for underlying inflation pressures to gradually build up and support headline inflation developments in the medium term. If the outlook becomes less favorable or if financial conditions become inconsistent with further progress towards a sustained adjustment in the path of inflation, we stand ready to increase
Can you
our
hear
asset
the stream
purchase
even though it's
program in
buffering?
terms of size and or duration.